Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.
Articles so I can be entertained. All right, we jump in intermittently here in the mixed division, New Zealand versus Finland. Here on Brian Jones with Megan Multenny, the World Ultimate Championships. And right away, New Zealand with the D looking to strike first. Richards sends it to the sideline, looking for the swing. Thornton puts it wide. Richards looking back. Now desperation dump to the end zone and caught for the goal. Carl Moore puts New Zealand on the board for the first goal of the game.
That's a good start for New Zealand's Manuka. They are actually New Zealand's first mixed team that the country has sent to Worlds since winning bronze back in 2004. Kind of as a country, they've focused more on seeding opens and women's teams. And they actually arrived here a week ago. They've set up a number of friendlies against some of the local London clubs. So this is for the first time where New Zealand will be represented in all 5 divisions: men's, women's, mixed, men's masters, and women's masters. It's the largest ever contingent to represent the country at the World Ultimate Championships. 104 Kiwi athletes in total, and they come out strong with a break to start this game.
Yeah, taking advantage of a turnover, Finland coming back into the fold. They'll send out their offensive line once again. Ball falls short of the end zone. And pole play goes a little bit awry as they can't find the right target. Now putting it deep. Sutari comes down with it. Looking for the dump on the goal line. And just behind the handler, gives it back to New Zealand. They'll be going the other way with a chance for the 2-0 lead. Johnstone centers it back. Rennick back to Fisk. Dump staves possession alive. Connolly, inside break, high, batted away. Back to Finland.
So Finland will get another look at this after just a little bit of a sloppy play. And then right away going from number 52, that's Timo Sutari.
Finland looking for the first score of the game. They've shot deep and had a couple of turnovers. Looking for the swing around, and another block by New Zealand. Sean Brill comes up with it. Now they're quickly going the other way. Looking underneath, finding Holdaway. Up the line, indeed. Kahari gets the block for the Finns. Looking for an option, high stall situation. They get the disc back off. Kahari sends it around. Not much movement downfield here for the Finnish mixed team. Never been sent to Worlds before. And the disc in and out of the hands of Salo. Mira Salo had it. And no longer back to New Zealand. Looking for the break to start off the offense. A common look so far for New Zealand. Now looking deep. That's matchup downfield. Grab for the goal. New Zealand goes up 2-0. Nicolo Bruce comes down with it.
And that's obviously not what Finland wants to start this game, but I think, it's worth mentioning, like you said, it's the first time they've sent a mixed team to Worlds. They're a young team. They only are returning 2 players from the 2015 national team that competed in the European Championships. They finished 9th in that tournament. They're clearly a developing national program. They got 2 new coaches. There's been a lot of turnover. So I think, we're seeing some sloppy but gritty play, and I think that's something we can expect to see from both these teams that are kind of, making an appearance at Worlds, either for the first time ever or for the first time in a long time. And it's also gusting. I don't know if you can tell from the flags in your feed, but it is a little bit swirly on the field, and that's causing some of those discs to pop up.
So far, all the advantage, though, has gone to New Zealand as they've been able to come out and strike first both times on the defensive side. Finland trying to shoot deep, wide open, can't get the disc there, falls short of the intended receiver. Vilhanen had the opportunity, was open deep. Now Richards will go to pick up the disc. See if New Zealand can again keep this streak going on the defensive break side. Hold away, gives it back. Looking for the hawk, and a point block gives it back to the Finns. That was Ropo coming up with the block. Wouldn't want to go down 3-0 at this point. Vitala underneath. Haas looking for a streaking up line, not there. High stall situation going back. Ropo calls the foul. Contact on the mark, and we see the game advisors out there signaling the calls here. This back into play. Looking for the dumps. Trying to squeeze it in. Not a lot of options. The far side, looping, going to be caught. Leskinen to the end zone for the first goal of the game. The Finns are on the board. They're down 2-1.
And they needed that. They needed to get a little confidence. They needed to score their first game, their first point at a world championship. They've now done that. And I think we've seen their offense be a little bit skittish so far, trying to put up shots to people who are already deep, looking for people who aren't exactly open, but then they've shown grittiness on the turn. Like they've gotten a point block, a layout D, I think if they can dial in their offense, really kind of settle things down, play their game, they're going to have a chance to crawl back. Well, this is the first time we're going to get a look at their D-line in the game, so it'll be interesting to see what they come out with to shut down this New Zealand offense.
Now, you've been a coach and a player, coached the Carleton women's team, involved in the scene around Minnesota. What do you do in a situation like this? You're going to your first big tournament. What do you tell your players when they're going to nationals, Stanford for the first time?
Sure. I think in college it's all about development, and I think personally we focus on trying to make sure that when it comes time to the big game, months away, that every single player on that roster has big game experience and can contribute. I think in a tournament like this, where you have a lot of players playing together for the first time and they have a week to get it together.
And going to the end zone, New Zealand slices through the zone, no problem. Number 9, Sam Fisk, comes up with it in the end zone. And we know for sure that New Zealand isn't nervous. So far, they've been firing on all cylinders. Going back, though, trying to get that big game experience, and that's going to be kind of critical for Finland. Like you said, they're coming out of a time when they got 9th at the Euro tournament. And what are you looking for in terms of that development? What are you telling your players? What's their mindset going into these types of games?
Sure. I think I do know from speaking to the Finland coaches that they are resting some players this round. They're looking to kind of create some rotation within their roster from game to game, see who's developing chemistry, see who needs a little bit of break for their legs. So my guess is that if I'm this coach, I'm looking at this game and I'm saying who is available to make plays, who's seeming like they're clicking together, and really be able to suss out those early tournament decisions so that when we get to power pools or we get to later in the tournament, there's a really clear idea about who's playing well together and who's able to not buckle under pressure.
Going deep, looking for an option, and 44, Daniel Aldridge is there for the block. Falling short. Finland has tried to go deep repeatedly in this game, and it hasn't worked. Going to the sideline, looking to swing the disc. Connolly. Around to Pooley. And zone here on the turn from the Finns. Trying to trap to the sideline. A hammer gets him out of it. Working it through the middle of the field. Getting a lot of yards. Connolly goes to the end zone for the score. Finland rolling up 4-1.
And I think that's kind of a strange choice from Finland. I think they're going to we'll see them taking a timeout here. I think they're going to reassess kind of their strategy. And we saw in that last point that they were playing a 4-person zone. They had females playing on the points, so marking in that cup, and you had men kind of drop back into the middle, theoretically to kind of clog that up, take that away. But what that leaves open is when you have a male handler set of New Zealand who are tall throwers who can throw over the top, they can get a lot of yards, they can beat you over into that space, and I don't know that it's the most effective way to deal with a more male-dominant handler line. So I'm hoping that Finland will take a second here, kind of talk about that, think about that. That may just be, trying some stuff out, seeing what works, all right? Say, you know what, let's try something else. Next point.
So when you're on a mixed team, in your opinion, do you have to test zones out with females and males in different positions based on, and on offense on the other side, do you calculate that? Do you try to get mismatches at all?
Well, I have to admit that I don't have a lot of experience tactically with the mixed division since I tended to stay away from it. But from friends and players that I do have in the division, I know that it is important, right? You have sometimes you're going to have a reason to do that. You're going to try to isolate a player on the other team and try to get the disc in their hands. And so maybe you play with your line to make sure that they're always the person who gets that disc because you're looking for that mismatch. Or maybe you're trying to limit, one player who's kind of the make or break player for that team. And so you can definitely play around with it. I don't think that a zone line has to be the same for every opponent. I think that's definitely something that teams should be flexible with.
Well, we'll see what they adjust with out of the timeout, and really maybe zone defense might be the worst or the least of their worries. Because offensively, they've been able to muster up much of any offense so far. A lot of single deep shots, not very many throws taken at all by the Finns, taking a lot of risk early on. New Zealand has been there to get the blocks and get the scores early.
One thing I think Finland, once they kind of take care of business on offense and are able to go back on D, they can think about is really trying to limit touches for New Zealand's men. We've kind of seen so far the offense has run primarily through them, whether we're in zone or we're in a person-to-person defense scenario. A lot of these women for this New Zealand team are pretty new players. Most of the experienced women in New Zealand are playing in the women's division, so they're definitely the weaker spot of this New Zealand team. And if Finland can find a way to isolate them, get the disc in their hands, they're going to have a shot at a turn.
After a poach D, New Zealand off to the races to the end zone, caught for the goal. They go up 5-1. Can't be stopped right now. They seem to have all the answers versus Finland. Sending it to the end zone for Tom White. And they've just done a great job of poaching and taking away Finland's strong point, which has clearly been they've wanted a deep game. And Finland has been unable to do plan B. And tough, like you said, just a developing team coming to Worlds to get to the experience. It's not a bad place to be in.
No, not at all. I mean, this is a tough spot right here. They were headed downwind. You know, that poach block gives New Zealand a short field, and now Finland having to work the disc 70 yards in the upwind direction to get that O-line hold, try to get things back on track. You know, I think, as you said, they're going to want to. They've shown that they've gone for the deep shot. Now that they've threatened that space, can they grind out some unders? Can they actually work the disc up the field that way? I think that's something they're going to have to prove to themselves and to this New Zealand team.
And for Finland and sending this mixed team, you know, New Zealand has to come halfway across the world. Finland has to take almost a domestic flight as they're shooting deep once again. 2 defenders giving chase. Up in the air and blocked again out of bounds. Number 29, Philip Rennick, comes up with it. The blocks keep on coming for New Zealand. And this is a great opportunity to send your team, if you're Finland, less experienced players. You talk to, I'm not sure necessarily the situation, but in many Scandinavian countries, it's hard to get people to play. There may be only 200 Ultimate players. Disc going up, New Zealand on a run. Can they continue it? Fading. A little bit of a tail, and Reed almost caught in the back of the end zone. No one could read that one. Megan mentioning the maximum time aloft. I think Rob McLeod, who's actually working with us this week, may have that record. Yeah, ominous clouds moving in. So far we've been holding off the rain, but we expect it later this week. That disc is down. New Zealand once again with a chance to break, up 5-1. Walking into this, taking their time. Isolation to the end zone, finding Connolly for the score.
And that puts New Zealand up 6-1 early in this game. The Finnish coach will take a timeout. They're going to regroup a little bit. While we're doing that, I think we'll talk about one of the players to watch for this New Zealand team, Mike Connolly, who just scored that layout, has been a long-time Frisbee player, kind of a stalwart in the scene in New Zealand. And it bears mentioning that this is one of his first trips to play internationally in a number of years because of some bad luck at some international tournaments in the past. It was in Japan at Sakai at the World Championships in 2012, where his 9-month-old son got incredibly sick and was hospitalized, and Mike actually ran an hour and a half from the hospital to the showcase game to play against Japan because it was being televised live back to New Zealand, where his father, who had recently been diagnosed with cancer, was able to watch the game. And then it was only a few years later that their second child, Mike, and his wife Mel, who actually plays on the women's masters team, was hospitalized while they were at an Australian tournament and had a near-death experience there. So I think he's mentioned that he's pretty nervous about traveling internationally and competing. The kids are left at home this time with family in New Zealand, and I think it's been really hard for him and for his wife Melanie to be away from them. But he said, we talked, and he said, you know, the thrill of international competition and playing Ultimate at the highest level for my country, I can't stay away. So we wish him the best, hope for no bad luck, third time's the charm, as he's out here with his team to compete in this World.
Well, he's certainly off to a great start here on the field, and hopefully the family can hold down the fort back in New Zealand. One of the places that I can't wait to visit personally. I'll get to extend my vacation a little bit and go to Norway. Do you have any plans after this?
Just briefly, I'll be traveling to Paris with one of my Carleton College classmates and friends, Sam Canner, who's playing on the USA mixed team. But just a few days, just a short trip. I actually was traveling all around Northern Europe during January, so I actually traveled to Scandinavia at that time of year, which actually it was warmer there than it was back home in Minneapolis, so I actually recommend it. There are no tourists.
Cold scares away anybody from Florida, but you know that cold of Minnesota makes someone tough. I don't know about you, but I had the warmest winter I've ever experienced. It was 70 in January at one point in Albany, New York. I like the cooler weather, and we're here, though. It's kind of crisp out, almost like a nice fall day, but you're in the middle of the summer months. Finland trying to get back on track. Viitala. Inside break. Salo hangs on. Looking back. Venno. Another inside. Looking for the around. Caught. Sudari tries for the flick. That one comes out a little wobbly. Not going to get the job done, and New Zealand will go back and try to build on this already monumental lead. Looking deep. Caught just short of the end zone. Morhu Cookson dishes it off. Juan. Gets it back. Now swinging around Juan. Throws right into a poach. Finland gets it back. Kari will pick it up. Finn's content to swing it around as cut opens up downfield by Viitala. Dishing it back.
I was just gesticulating wildly because Finland's women continue to churn up yards, be super open deep, then be super open under, and their men continuing to look them off, looking for resets. I know that happens in the mixed game often, but it's disappointing. I want them to use their full 7.
Alex Davis actually had an article written for Sky Magazine kind of outlining some things that can be done to fix that situation. And I know it's just a matter of making a more conscious effort of a team, even down to Summer League, of just getting people and just getting everybody equal amount of touches. And I think I'm a big proponent, as New Zealand's going the other way, is actually going to a 3-3 matchup, going to a 6-person league where you have three women and 3 men out on the field. I think that would be an interesting way for the mixed division to go.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to see what kind of adjustments that force teams to make. We see Finland is going to get a chance back here with a turnover just out wide to the sideline, errant throw from New Zealand.
With Team USA not sending a team from the mixed division, we see, the top men and women competing in all divisions. As another turnover gives it back to New Zealand. It's going to be very interesting to see how both sexes are used in that game. Because somebody like Sandy Jorgensen is an absolute beast. And I remember I had to coach Chris Mazer on Pony, and when he made the mixed roster, he said he was so excited to be able to throw it to her deep. Over the top for the goal. New Zealand goes up 7-1.
And that's Natasha Juan finding her teammate Esther Leong. So 2 women connecting for that goal. I think it's worth mentioning Natasha Juan is one of 3 kind of expats playing for this New Zealand team who just joined up with them this week. She's actually a player out of San Francisco, has been playing for Nightlock the last season, and then Polar Bears before that. So we've seen her at the Worlds events playing with them. She's joined by Tom White and Nikki Bruce, who actually is not out on the field at the moment. She's got kind of a heel injury, and they're trying to get her healthy for later in the week. She was a U23 player playing with the women's side for Team USA last year here at these fields, so she's familiar with them, and they're hoping to have her back by later this week.
Best of luck to her as New Zealand looks to take half. Pretty much dominating this game all the way around. And Finland will look to continue to develop their younger players. Overthrow, gives it back to New Zealand. And White will slowly walk to the disc and look to pick it up. Immediately centers the disc. Thornton hands it off to Connolly. Easy give and go. Not taken, swing wide. New Zealand one more pass, gets it in. They take half, 8-1. Here in the mixed division, the World Ultimate Championships.
So I think we're gonna chat a little bit and then we'll take half here. We've got a 7-minute break, so we're gonna go to that. But I think just kind of initial thoughts. I think that just as we thought going into this game, this was going to be a tough game for Finland. First time at the tournament, but they got that one goal on the board, so that's all that matters, right? You get that one. You're not getting bageled. You have something to build on, through the rest of the week. This team is a 3 seed in Pool B, so they're expected to drop this game to New Zealand. They've got another tough matchup later this week, so this is all about, can you get the jitters out? Can you start to grease the machine that is your offense? Can you start looking at your women, and then really just get things flowing? And I think for New Zealand, this is exactly kind of the strong start they wanted to come out with. They haven't played together a ton. Like we mentioned, there isn't a mixed division in New Zealand. So these are all players who are playing together for the first time at a big tournament. And I think, for them, this is exactly how they wanted to start, playing big, finding each other on the field, creating that chemistry, because they do hope to go far in this tournament. They're going to see Australia later. That's going to be their biggest match of the week, and I think they want to be ready to give them a real run for their money.
Yeah, New Zealand is certainly rolling, where Finland is going to go back to the drawing board and figure out some goals that they can attain here in the second half. New Zealand leads 8-1. We'll be back in a few minutes here with second half action. We're here back in the second half action of the World Ultimate Championships in the mixed division. New Zealand leads 8-1. The score has seemingly kept getting higher for New Zealand as the temperatures start to begin to plummet, and we wish we were wearing warmer clothes, but we'll close this one out today. Finland with the pole. New Zealand will have a chance to continue to build on the lead. Disc centered to Hines. Move downfield, Kiefer looking for an option. Up the line, finding Hines. Hines shooting it deep, has a receiver. Great grab in the end zone. It's back to Sudari. Finland swings it around. Hakola. Looking back in the end zone, not much room to go for Finland. They've only got one on the board, but looking at their first break opportunity. And dropped right back on the goal line for New Zealand. Quick pickup and a quick dish, finding Connolly for the goal. New Zealand goes up 9-1.
We've been talking about the weather starting to take a turn for it. That goal was thrown by Angus Hines, number 4. Apparently, his weather predictions are so good that he just kind of always knows what the wind and the rain is doing, and he can tell everyone on the team how to adjust their throws. He actually works for the New Zealand Met Services, so I think that's where he picked up that skill. But yeah, it might be useful as winds continue to gust and the sky continues to darken.
What every team needs, a meteorologist, your own weatherman, telling you what to expect. I actually had a frantic weather-related story coaching this year, going to regionals, and learned it was going to be a downpour on Sunday. So I went into Home Depot and I grabbed 20 pairs of Gorilla Grip gloves, and they curiously asked me what I was doing and explained Ultimate Frisbee. And I was surprised at the fact that they didn't seem too surprised about that as well. They realized pretty good grip. If you ever need something in a pinch, Home Depot Gorilla Grip gloves, $5. They work great in the rain. Finland trying to operate here in their own end zone. A block for New Zealand, tipped, caught by Finland. They keep it alive. Vilhanen keeps it alive here for the Finns. Looking for an option. Still back in their own end zone. Finding Venho. Looking deep. Caught. Tarvis. Ropo. Swings it around and gets the inside break. Finland looking better here in the second half. Offense starting to put together a quality possession. Another inside break. Lapelanin. Close to a block. Finland continues to attack the inside break lane. The Ropo.
And like you said, better from Finland, and I think part of that is we see captain Veera Venho getting more involved. She throws this huck to get them out of that corner of their own end zone, and has been able to work it up the field, getting a few give and goes, little IO break, backhand break there. So I think, I know I'm kind of pushing, maybe pushing this issue farther than the data suggests, but I maintain that her involvement really created a more balanced attack for Finland's offense.
I mean, it's pretty simple math. If you're not going to use the high percentage of your players, you can't expect for things to really go too well, especially at a high-level tournament such as Worlds. After a couple of turnovers, we have a pick call that's going to bring it back. The Finns now just in worse field position after the New Zealand huck. looking for an option. Goes back. Gets the dump off and looking for the swing, and just a more concentrated effort to get the disc to the break side. Now in a solid vert stack, looking for options. Staying very patient. Long possession is going to end in a timeout call. The Finns trying to operate a break side offense, and they're doing pretty well with that, Megan.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they said in their halftime talk, but I think it was productive. Like you mentioned, they're using their pivots. They've been hitting a lot of these backhands from the IO spot, kind of up the gut, but with enough of a break side advantage that they can continue that motion of that side. I think taking that slightly easier break throw to then open up something further downfield is a really great easy adjustment. You don't say, hey, we're going to hit these super hard around upwind flicks that have to be just right, but we're going to fake that and we're going to hit the slightly easier one, and then we're going to keep moving into that side. Keep hitting their women. I think doing a better job of making everyone on New Zealand feel like their person could be getting the disc at any time. And anytime you make a defender pay attention to you, you're doing your teammates a favor, right? Because that person isn't able to think about what else is going on, not able to peel off, kind of get in the way. And that only happens if you're using everybody. So I think all across the board, some good adjustments made to be better, playing a better team offense than we saw kind of in the first half.
Those adjustments are evolving into an offense that you can actually have concrete goals off of. I think in the first half, we talked about that development, really tough as a coach when you can't make throws and catches, and the possessions are one-pass throws. So a great adjustment here in the second. Getting this Finnish offense to look like a real offense. New Zealand also looks like they're putting in some of their depth portions of the squad to get some of their own development. Some confusion off the start, maybe a violation. Looking again for the inside break. And it's all to the break side. Looking underneath, finding Leskinen.
Yeah, I think one of the adjustments that allows them to use that break side is they went vert stack right out of that timeout call, right? So they know that they're leaving that space open to work in. Their cutters right now are doing a good job of keeping their spacing, keeping their stack discipline, so that continues to be an option, for their main thrower right now, who's Leskinen, who's doing a good job finding those breaks, and as I say that, a turn.
Second time this weekend the commentators curse hits. Say something nice about a player and it results in a turnover more often than not. It's the way the dice rolls. But New Zealand back on the way to trying to build this lead more. Off of the end zone, White. Looking to thread the needle. Tries to fit it in there, won't work. Intended for Bruce. Finland back to action here on offense. Multiple cuts going, trying to open up some space. Forced to go back for the dump. Finding Leskinen. Another inside break and a poach D coming out off the offense. Offense couldn't see her coming through. Kisa Valenti picks up the block. New Zealand goes back to their end zone offense. Quick flip. Richards. Swing. And a pass to the end zone. Makes it look easy. New Zealand goes up 10-1.
That's unfortunate. I want Finland to be rewarded for making those good adjustments. But in the end, just kind of a drop, kind of just a execution error cost them that possession. Allows New Zealand to continue to extend their lead. And the game advisor is signaling something over their heads. I think it's just I'm assuming it's just the time. I only say that because if you can't see it on your screen, but off to your left, the clouds are quite dark, and we looked at some Doppler earlier that suggested that it was going to get pretty intense here later. But for now, play will continue. New Zealand trying to close out this game cleanly, and Finland just trying to walk away with a few more points, feel good about some passes they've been able to string together, some flow they've been able to create.
Hakala looking underneath. Hunting Milamaki. Up the line. Finding Skullberg to the end zone. And that's number 2 for Finland. Sorry, and turnover. Going the other way. Just when I was about to give Finland credit, they marched down and New Zealand's coming back the other way. Just has to run this one out. To the end zone for the other score, Philip Rennick. Made sure that we would get his name right, and I hope I am, because they're up 11-1, and he just scored the goal to do it.
Oh, Finland. I want you to score that downwind goal so badly. New Zealand, got to hand it to them. They waste no time saying we're going to play small ball, going upwind, just rip a huck immediately, and then settle out a really nice pass just to space. Actually have a few receivers in there kind of outnumbering the lone Finnish defender, and Rennick able to run onto that pretty easily. And now they'll get to go pulling downwind and able to, hopefully pin Finland back. I wouldn't be surprised if Finland came out looking to huck right away here. But I'll be curious if they go back to that kind of sloppy hoe stack we saw in the first half, or they're going to stick with this more disciplined vert stack that was generating some good offense in real moments just a few possessions ago.
New Zealand goes back to the action. As this game here is kind of getting out of hand, we're going to kind of set our sights for the rest of the mixed division. A lot of teams here that could be really powerful. And, the one that comes to mind and that, Megan, you've probably coached with or known a lot of the players, especially on the women's side for Team USA. Who are you looking forward most to seeing?
Well, we've already mentioned Sandy Jurgensen, but I want to go back to her. I mean, she has, an elite level of speed that really no other women certainly in the U.S. and I'd be curious to see in the world can really match. And I think, that comes out in its most potent way on defense, where throwers say, "Oh yeah, that woman is super open. I'm going to throw it to her," and Sandy just has to take 2 steps, and it's a run through D, and that's going to be something that she's going to be able to do, I think, time and time again for that U.S. mixed team. That being said, there are a lot of great players. I think Kelly Johnson is an incredible handler defender. I think she'll really make a lot of teams' lives miserable, kind of shutting down some of their female handlers. And Carolyn Finney is an incredible thrower. Love to see her kind of in places captaining, field marshaling the team behind the disc. She's got incredible breakthrows. And I do think, having seen them play earlier this year, I saw an exhibition game against Dragon Thrust in Minneapolis, that they are a very talented team, and they are not afraid to use every single person on that line of 7.
Yeah, one of the things I heard from Nikki Spiva as we actually came over to the same plane was that not only is Sandy's an incredible athlete, as you mentioned, but that her throws have become dangerous as well. And because I was asking Nikki, who are the surprise players that you kind of noticed as New Zealand looks to the end zone to try to go up 12-1, but all for naught, is that Nikki would say Sandy, you don't really consider her a dangerous thrower, and that sometimes in practice he would kind of hang out underneath and let his matchup go deep. And Sandy was able to hit him in stride, no problem, and that's something that it's great to see. I think Sandy could easily draw comparisons to Bo Kittredge, and in the same way, Bo kind of developed deep throws, and Sandy's doing that. it's just so excited to really see that matchup. And unfortunately, the player that I would have been also really excited to see, Robin Wiseman, unfortunately going down with that injury. As New Zealand builds the lead up to 12-1.
And I think, you mentioned the comparison to Bo Kittredge, and I think that one thing that is so incredible about Worlds, as we see this Finnish team, having a tough first game, taking a timeout. Obviously every team who plays a competitive sport wants to win, right? They didn't come here to lose all their games. That being said, getting to lose against great teams can be huge for teams that are in development. Getting to play against someone like a Sandy Jurgensen or a Bo Kittredge, not only do you get to learn from them and see them in action, but also you get to take that moment home with you, and you get to go tell your friends back in your home country, I caught a pass against whichever player is an idol for you. And I think that's a really exciting thing about these Worlds games, is that it has a little bit of that just kind of special feel about it. All the teams are eating together in the dormitory lunchroom, so all the teams at their different tables, and I think it's for a young team like this Finnish team, I think what they're going to get out of this tournament, as much almost on par with how much they're learning on the field, is going to be all that off the field kind of magic that you're a part of, that continues to grow that excitement, and you can take it back to your country, and you can inspire other younger players, and kind of build up that next generation of people who are excited to come to these kinds of events.
And I think we've both been, Carleton has always had this history of development, and I think for me as a coach of UConn this year, we went into a tournament like Easterns, and in the college level, that's not Worlds, but that's a big tournament. And day one, we didn't score more than 6 points against anybody, but we were able to turn that around and have a successful season after that, learn from it, and take a couple games at nationals, which, you can turn that around even within 1 year. And you can, if you have the right coaching, and I think that's what's so important, is just that you see teams that don't have coaches, don't have mentors that are going to guide you through the step-by-step process, because in the end, it's a sport, and we all kind of know once you have that experience level, there's a task list of things you can go through to get better. Make sure you can throw that inside break consistently. Now make sure that you have the year-round, and then you can throw deep and develop other parts of your game. And so that's what I think Finland wants to come away with, is the concrete adjustments, not the, there's the two sides of the coin. You mentioned the inspiration, right? That's, like you said, that's a great thing. It's just, I would have been here as much as I could be, regardless of playing or commentating. I would have just loved to be a part of this tournament. And I think for some people, just to play in it and say that you're a Worlds player, that's an awesome status. And then the other side is, what do you take away? You have to, in order to get better, you have to play pressured reps against better players. And so this is the opportunity to learn what's going to take. These teams complete this way, they run offense this way. 12-1, and the Finns are going to get certainly a lot of practice here. And they've had some offensive possessions not look terrible in the second half. Quick give and go to start. I think the biggest question, though, as we go on throughout this tournament is, who will give the USA the best game? Because USA has never submitted a roster like this before, and it is a very different division than a team than we would see from the mixed division. We did have some players that did play mixed join Team USA, Mac Taylor and Jack McShane on the men's side.
Yeah, I think the Canadian mixed team will definitely give them a run for their money. And we see there a connection between Moore and Nikki Bruce, who's put her cleats on in the game, take them up 13-1, going upwind, an upwind score off of a nice flick huck for New Zealand. So yeah, I think we're all excited to see what Canada can bring. They've got a very strong squad this year. I think they're one of the countries that, kind of has enough people playing in Canada. I mean, there are there are thousands of people playing in Canada, as opposed to, you know, Finland, like you said, might only have 200, and they have that depth from their clubs that, yeah, they can load their men's teams, yeah, they can load their women's teams, but they can also load their mixed teams in a way that, you know, I think countries like Australia and New Zealand, you know, maybe just don't have the bandwidth for. So I'm really interested to see how that depth matches up against the American side. Probably won't see it for a number of days, but it will be exciting nonetheless.
I think also looking at teams like Japan, I'm really interested to see, because I didn't, you know, for the longest time I knew about the Buzz Bullets, I knew about Uno, and then all of a sudden the last World Clubs there was 3 good Japanese women's teams like in contention. And so it looks like they have the depth to be able to draw all those players from, and that's the one thing too, is that the Japanese are always a threat. Nice weather conditions, you can throw those blades, you can run the offense that nobody's ever really defended before, and they don't know what to do. That gives such a big edge, and Japan is so great at forming those tricks, as Finland's trying to put it in for the second goal, going to the end zone, and blocked again by New Zealand. Sarah Brill comes up with it. New Zealand looking to punch in the last 2 points. This will kind of cap our first day, and it's been a whirlwind so far. Still getting over the jet lag. Looking underneath. Valente swings it back. Rennick decides to go wide. Loops it over for the long swing pass. And taking their time, in New Zealand just content to swing it until a better option opens up. Really moving the mark. Kiefer gets it off. Looking for the hammer in the middle of the field. And a quick dish puts it in the end zone. New Zealand goes up 14-1.
You know, I think what I hope Finland takes away from this game is, like you said, those little concrete things. You know, they've demonstrated that they can play offense for, 50, 60 yards. They can move the ball, they can find breakthroughs, they can create space for each other, and they can get within 10 to 15 yards of that end zone. They've done it a lot of times this game, and it's that last 10 to 15 yards, right? It's that last, can you find that patience, and can you do all those little things right when you're in a much more compressed space? So can you continue to pivot and move your mark? Can you continue to cut hard to create space for your teammates? And can you, make good decisions about what look is the high percentage look? And I think once they figure that out, they're going to put more points on the board. And I think, I hope that that's kind of the thing that they take away from this first game here.
Yeah, it's tough. And for anybody else watching who's a young player, it's really hard to be so outcome-based because there's so many good teams out there. And you'll know if you're in contention for a national championship. You're going to lose. Most people's seasons, as we're looking at offsides call, don't end with a national championship. And so the process goals and the concrete details, you can go through a game and say, did we play tight dump defense? Okay, we met that or we were successful there. Did our marks work hard and were they in good position? Okay, we were successful there. And you can add up those things, and over time, that's what actually puts you in the realm to then have conversations that are more mental, because when you have two teams of similar talent, the mental fortitude and toughness is really what matters. But early on, it's, do you have the skills? And so many teams walk away, like I hear this all the time, is, oh, we would have won that game if we just didn't drop it. Well, did you really have a case of the drops, or did the other team put a ton of pressure on you so it was tighter throws and faster speed passes that you weren't used to dealing with? And so I think for Finland, that's part of the takeaway, is what did we do well in this game? And they did well. They scored another point here in the second half by getting their offense to kind of coalesce together as they put it to the end zone. 14-2 New Zealand leads, but that's something to certainly build on it. Every score is done one pass at a time, and every game is one score at a time.
Yeah, I think that's something that, as a coach, I've always emphasized. This year in particular for us was a real building year. So every single tournament is an opportunity to set some very concrete process goals, and we might not see the fruition of that until next year during a run at college nationals, but that's the expectation that we build for our program, is that we have that long look and we have that long game. And so I think I'm hopeful that this Finland team will, they had a lot of turnover from the 2015 to this team. I hope all these players will come back and play with each other, in the next couple of years, and that they can say, hey, we're going to think about that long-term success of the program, and not get discouraged, by whatever happens here this week.
New Zealand coming down the field, looking to put it away pretty quick. Quick dish to the end zone because the offense hasn't really been on the field, and it works. New Zealand takes the game 15-2. They'll move on to the next round. A good warm-up game for them, and Finland will come away with, hopefully, like we've just talked about, some concrete things to keep building on. All smiles from both squads here. First time in a long time since New Zealand's coming as a mixed squad, and the first time for the Finns. It showed a little bit, or maybe a lot of it, but time to work on it, and plenty of time this week to have fun and enjoy this, what's an immaculate field site. That, showing up to college nationals this year, it was a dirt mud path. So this is a much better place to be. For Megan Multenny, I'm Brian Jones. Thanks for joining in. We'll be back tomorrow at it. Right now, we're going to take sign off for the day and get inside and get a little bit warmer. Thanks for joining us once again.
Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.